So this is the new store. This is Seize the Day. We wanted to offer something to people that are visiting in the summertime, or college kids that are away and homesick, or day trippers. That they can take a little piece of Spring Lake home with them. It's not just about Spring Lake town. It's some of the other local towns. Like we have people from Manasquan and Seagirt and a ton of Brielle people coming over that want stuff. We've got some great customized little sweaters here that say Spring Lake that are super traditional. We have some great hats from a company that we just sourced right now. It features an artist. Her name is Chloe, and her business is called Claudia Chloe. And she goes up into a helicopter during the high season in the summertime and takes aerial shots of all the local beaches. So, we love these, and our customers love them too.
Ab, thank you for doing this. I'm super excited about talking with you today. I've been following you over the years as you progress with Water Lily, and now we're here at Seize the Day. And I know that you have a brand within the brand, and you have 2 kids, and you just are doing amazing things. And I just kind of wanted to take the time to talk to you a little bit about it, because every time that I think that I'm like, oh wow, Abby's doing great things, there's like something else that you're doing, which is so awesome. And we've talked about that briefly before, where a lot of people can just kind of get to that plateau and they're like, I'm good. And that's fine. And not to take away from anything, but I think that it's really cool that you're just always trying to, keep pushing forward. So thanks again for doing this. And Carmine,
oh, definitely.
Really yeah.
No, it's funny you would say that, because I feel like I'm so lucky to have a husband and a business partner that are so supportive, because
right.
Sometimes they're like, I can see that look in your eye, and I'm like, I have a new idea.
Yeah.
I tend to jump to the next,
Yeah.
and I have to remember to pull back and nurture the things that, I started.
Right.
I'm a big starter, and
and just
move on to the next. If you went to our house, you'd see I have art projects all over the house.
Absolutely. I kind of grew up in your home, and
it was like that then too.
Yeah. So I remember as a kid, you just kind of like drawing on the walls and stuff like that. And so you're a creative person, and that's kind of how things are born. Like when you have an idea, you kind of got to start with it, and when things feel right, you kind of roll with it. And this has been something that's felt right for you, and it's grown and it's expanded, and you've done little things like within. So I really would just kind of like to talk to you a little bit about, Water Lily and, how that got started. And, because I remember you working in the city. Mm-hmm. We had a brief conversation, and you were just like a couple of years ago, I was actually wearing a kilt cleaning your windows. And you had mentioned that, you were just, I think, working for Urban Outfitters, right?
I was working for Free People, which is a division of Urban Outfitters, which was my dream job. Mm-hmm. All through college, that was the company. Once I graduated, if I could get a job there, I was psyched. That was, that was my bucket list work-wise. Mm-hmm. So I did that for a year, and realized that when I thought that was my dream, I really hadn't taken into account that I might be in a totally different place in my life, which I was. I was married at the time. My brother had just passed away, and I started reevaluating. This sounds like super deep for a business, but I started reevaluating my life completely.
Absolutely.
Everything from the way, and it started from, I was thinking about it this morning. It started, I would get in bed at night and be, that was my sad time. I'd be really sad. I realized that I was always looking at the glass as half empty. Through my whole, that's just naturally the way I saw things. And I realized that I could make a choice to look at things as being half full, as the glass being half full. And it was really, I kind of feel like I helped reprogram my attitude a lot. And it took that big shake of losing somebody that close to me to realize it, and it made me do the we only get one shot at this.
Totally.
Don't hold back. Let's do it.
Yeah.
And Catherine's my business partner at Water Lily, we talked about that. We would ride the bus up to the city every day. We both were commuting to the city, and we would talk about that. And we would talk about what we wanted, like what we wanted out of life, what we wanted, and we realized we wanted to be close to home. We wanted to be near our families, and we, decided to make it happen. I mean, we would joke, we would talk about it every morning on the bus, and we would joke that all the men on the bus were like, listen to these two girls that have no idea what they're doing. They want to open a store, but we were serious. We realized that what we were doing and commuting every day to the city and being away from our friends and our family was not what we wanted.
So what was that moment though? Like, do you remember that moment? Because I think everybody has that moment where they're like, okay, I'm doing it,
Yeah.
And you just kind of was like, told your boss, like, that's it for me.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I had a little bit of a motivator. I ended up getting pregnant with my first son.
Okay.
And I realized as soon as that happened that there was no way that I wanted to be in New York City and leave him, down here with somebody else.
Right.
I just kept thinking, oh my gosh, like when I was little, if I got sick at school, my mom could come get me. I won't be able to go pick him up, ridiculous stuff that was like so far in the future. But it was one of those things where it was like, okay, everything felt like it was falling into place. And I mean, I was 27, I think Catherine was 25. Mm-hmm. We're like, what's the worst that could happen? We start a business, it fails, and we have to go back to waitressing. I mean, we both grew up waitressing. Yeah. It's always doable,
Sure.
You just kind of have to go for it. You can't overthink it.
Yeah.
And we were young and naive, and that was like, at the time I had no idea how much it costs to raise kids or all that stuff, but it was good. It was good that it happened at that time in our life.
Yeah. No, and that's kind of like how anything happens, right? Like I've come to realize that there is no ready is like for food.
There is no perfect time.
Right? Like at any time that I've ever done anything, it's always been like, it just pukes out of my mouth and I'm like, all right, I'm doing this.
This is happening.
Yeah. I mean, that's how it happened like this summer, when I decided to leave the warehouse. I was just like, the guy, my boss came to the back and I was just like, today's my 2 weeks. You know what I mean? And I started on this journey and reconnected with Carmine and, and like that's kind of how it always happens. And I think everybody that kind of makes that leap has a similar story.
It's always been a dream of mine to start my own clothing line.
Sure.
But there's just always been a part of me ever since I was little that has felt like I wanted to explore kind of like Southeast Asia. And I especially Indonesia. I grew up in a house where there was a lot of surfing and a lot of Surfer magazine, and I was always reading it, and that was like where I've always wanted to go, and I did a ton of research. I know that a lot of the clothes that even come into Water Lily are made in Indonesia, specifically Bali. Mm-hmm. So I was like, okay. So my husband Adam and I's 10-year anniversary, we decided to go to Bali as like an anniversary trip. We'd never really done that. Mm-hmm. We had a honeymoon, but it was really short and during a hurricane, so it wasn't really like a memorable trip. So we kind of went for it, and he went and was super pumped because he got to surf, and I went and was super pumped because I was gonna try and ask around and see how hard it would be to start a clothing line. And kind of just went for it. Like put myself out there, which I will say was one of the scarier things I've done in my life. Is just literally like knocking on doors in
a foreign
Bali.
place. Yeah.
And being like, hi, like, do you ever make, like I see you make stuff. Do you ever make stuff for other people?
Yeah.
And I did. I learned that.
Do you have to go to like a marketplace and like?
Went to tons of markets. I mean, and I'm so lucky too because Adam, my husband, is so great. He is. If he can see me get nervous, he can see me go inward, and he turns into my goofy husband. That's like, hi, my wife wants to make stuff. Maybe you can come over here and talk to her. And I'd be like, oh my God, I'm dying. But it was great.
That's awesome.
I mean, it was great. That's and great. Now I have like a small team of people that I work with over there, and we go back every year, which is really kind of like living the dream.
Yeah.
I mean, also, it's like two-sided. I also say I can suck the fun out of anything and turn anything we do into a business opportunity. Right. But it's great. And I love Bali. I love the culture. I love the people. It's my favorite place.
So what is that? So what's the concept behind it, or like the branding kind of type?
So, I mean, I decided if I was going to do it, I was going to go all in, and it was going to represent me. So I have no formal training in any of this, but I make all of my own prints. And then I have those prints sent, and they are screen printed on huge bolts of fabric, and then I drop the designs and work on fitting it, and I have a team of sewers that turn it into the clothing.
Wow. So that's you got to be patient with that, like working. Like,
oh my God,
halfway across.
It's a lot. Turns out, long story short, that is not how most people do it. They just like go pick out fabric and have it made. But I just feel like if I'm going to do it, like I'm doing it on a small scale in these stores, so I can do it this way for now.
And it's been well received by your customers?
It has. Knock on wood. I'm pleasantly surprised. I mean, like I put my heart and soul into it, but it does well. And I'm lucky I have, 12 or 13 years of customer research of what people are looking for, or, what they like and what they don't like, so I can take all that with me.
It sounds like you're just getting started. It doesn't, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like you say that that we're getting old, but I just don't feel that way. Like there's so much at our fingertips now that it's a lot different than when we were even younger. You know what I mean? Like there's a lot of when I decided to leave the warehouse a couple months ago, like I just had an iPhone. Like I didn't have a computer or anything, and I went down to the county's office and I registered a name, and like I just started shooting off emails, and I'm getting you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so there's just a lot of opportunity for people of all ages, but it's really just a lot of getting over that fear. And Carmine and I had a big conversation this morning about fear and how it will absolutely kill people's dreams. And I lived in that space for a while, like things just weren't working out the way that I wanted to. And I just kind of fell back and just kind of imploded. But, talk to us a little bit about right before you make a leap like that, not even coming over here to do Seize the Day, but launching this new brand and then opening up another store and then having just a seasonal store down. How do you deal with all that fear?
So I look at it like this. What is the worst that can happen? And I go in deep. What is the worst that can happen? Am I going to have to take out a fourth job? Am I going to have to sell a car? What is the worst thing that could happen? And then you also have to realize that no one's paying attention to what you're doing except for you.
Ego, absolutely, right?
I'm so hard on myself because I assume that people are judging me, but everyone has their own shit. Right. Everyone's busy doing their own stuff. They don't have time to keep track of you. So you can't even think about it that way. You just got to think about how bad do I want it, and is it worth my time? And why not? We're only here once. Why not just like keep growing the list and keep,
Yeah, absolutely, and I totally agree, because there is just that time where you think that everybody is watching what you do,
for sure,
and everybody gives a shit about because they're like, oh my god, like I just did that, like that'll be in the bubble bulletin, everybody's going to read about that, right?
Just wait until you have kids.
So yeah, going for it is the initial you have that like all that momentum, you're like, let's do this, and then you hit that wall, and like when you get to that where maybe the brand wasn't working so well, or people aren't you aren't that busy doing this new shop, like you're just like not feeling great about it, something bad happens, what's your process for that?
So, we always say, we always kind of joke across the street, we're open year round, but our business is very cyclical and very, very heavily weighted in the summertime. So we're either busy being busy, or we're busy trying to be busy. There is no downtime. And I think that was the biggest learning curve for us is, people are like, oh, it's January, it's quiet for you now. And it's like, no, it's actually not quiet. We're just as busy now doing stuff to prep so that we're prepared for our busy season. So that was probably our biggest hurdle and our biggest learning curve, like that you can't just like relax and chill for a month or two because you own your own business. So, you have to take the business seriously all the time. There is no relaxing and enjoying or like resting on your laurels. It's always what's next. How can we grow?
Right.
We're always living a year in advance.
Right.
Like, what are our numbers? What were our numbers last year? What are our numbers this year? And what can we possibly hit next year?
Yeah.
So.
When you ever get like to that point where you're just like, let's just sell this place and just.
Well, Catherine and I always joke. Like, I'll be like, so what's our end game? Like, what's our exit strategy?
Right.
Are we going to be like 75-year-old ladies with walkers, like rolling through a trade show? Like, what is? Right. So I don't know. I try not to think too far into that future, but yeah, we between the two of us, we had boys, so clearly they're not gonna want to inherit the women's clothing stores, and I don't think I'd want that for them anyway.
Right.
So I don't really know.
That's a fair answer.
It's a challenge too, because we opened up the store when we were, in our 20s. Now I'm like, I just turned 40. Do the clothes and the vibe of the store change with us as we age? Do we keep it the same way? Like, there's all these little like nuances that we really didn't think about.
Sure.
That we have to think about, 10, 15 years from now. Are we going to be a completely different store because we are that much older?
Right. So I guess that comes with, as the business grows, it has to grow with the time. I always find it interesting because people that are like really successful invest in younger people, right?
For sure.
And staying at the forefront of like what's happening, like what's happening in tech and what's happening with, with styles and stuff like that is something that you guys obviously have to have your pulse on.
Yeah.
So are you involved like in the local, like even the like colleges, communities, schools, anything like that? Or do you look to do that in the future?
I don't love public speaking, so I would avoid that at all costs. But I did actually help a friend of ours who works down in Point Borough asked myself and a couple of other women to come in and talk to some students that are, interested in our area, whether it was fashion or art or design, to go chat with them. And I actually loved it. There's so much stuff you learn and so much hindsight, that you can pass on to people that it's just like, that was fun. I just have to get over the hurdle of like hating to speak in public.
As companies grow and you guys are getting bigger, and like we had mentioned before, like I don't see you stopping anytime soon. What are you, how does that show up in today's world and like the woman's dynamic, and because this comes like on our interview now is coming on the heels of the Women's Rights March, and we talked a little bit about that. And have you seen or felt those struggles?
Yes, I'm sure we did, to be honest. But looking back in hindsight, we chalked it up, Catherine and I, if we ever had a hurdle. Like, for example, we started this business, we had a business plan, we were doing well. We tried to go get a loan at the bank. They shot us down. Was it because we were women? Maybe. We assumed it was because we were in our 20s. And it was probably a factor of both. But to be honest, it really doesn't matter, because I can't change the fact that I'm in my 20s or that I'm a woman.
Right.
So instead of being like, oh, that wasn't fair, we were too busy working on a different plan and figuring out a different way to get over that hurdle. We're lucky we work in an industry that is there's a lot of women. So that's, definitely nice. There have been times where we've been spoken down to or mansplained a little bit, but I've never taken it personally. Personally, I just think that the person that's talking to you that way or treating you that way, it might do that to anybody. Right. You can't take it personally, and you can't assume it's because of age or gender or anything else, and you kind of just have to move on from it instead of sitting in it and focusing.
Yeah. No, and that's, I think that's a good way of kind of speaking to that, because rather than feeling victimized, you have to keep moving. Like I had kind of mentioned before, like this is not like a platform for that, but I definitely want to celebrate, women's perseverance of, finding that way, rather than, sitting there and saying, well, this just isn't fair. You guys kept going. And you're growing, and Spring Lake is a town that welcomes this type of this type of boutique shop, but it's also an older town,
Definitely.
And so having your brand is not only great for when the town swells in the summertime, but you draw from neighboring towns. People come in. You guys are big on Instagram, and do you feel that your social media presence has kind of drawn, those customers?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, Instagram is an amazing tool. We can post something on Instagram and within 45 minutes have somebody in the store asking to buy it, which is just it's mind-blowing. Okay. And I feel guilty every night when I get into bed and didn't take advantage of it that day.
Right.
But it's an amazing tool. It's a great way to reach local people, but I love the fact that we can also reach people in California and Texas and Australia. I mean, we have a website and we are shipping out boxes weekly to Australia.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, which is insane. I mean, who would have thought of that? I know when we first opened, that was not on our radar. I mean, I will say, I know retail in general, like brick and mortar is down, but not for us. It's more about the experience.
Yeah.
It's, like if we can't offer that ease of click and buy and have it at your door like an Amazon purchase, we need to give them a reason to come to us, and it needs to be, the merchandising in the store, the vibe of the store, the friendliness, maybe the pictures on the wall that you wouldn't have thought to hang that certain way, or a special event, or, we're constantly thinking of ways like that to welcome people into the store.
Seize the Day is born out of some of the questions that were asked in Water Lily.
Yeah. I mean, we had customers that would come in and they would maybe shop for themselves or shop for their daughter or their mother, and then they'd say like, hey, I need to get my husband or my grandson or my brother something from Spring Lake. Where can I go? And we would try to shoot them to other stores in town, and they'd be like, nah, that's not really what I'm looking for, or no, I've been there, they don't have what I'm looking for. So we were like, okay, like let's, it was kind of the perfect storm. It was something that we'd always talked about, but we were kind of just like, oh, that'd be great. This space opened up, and somebody that knew the space was opening up reached out to us and told us, and that's kind of where the name was born from, Seize the Day. Like, we literally, Catherine was at work, I was at home, I got the phone call, the space was open, called her and was like, hey, what do you think? Like, we could do what we've talked about. And I mean, literally, I didn't talk to my husband or my kids were near me and they're like, you should do it. Like I'm taking the advice of a 10-year-old, like, okay. And I was like, all right, like, what do you think? Like, let's do it. We can call it Seize the Day, with a nautical vibe, and just like, it has a double meaning. Like, we just went for it. We really didn't have like a business plan for this. So we'll see if this one succeeds or not. 'Cause usually we're pretty regimented on that. But I mean, this isn't our first rodeo. We've done it before. But so we literally made the decision and like took the space within a matter of a few hours.
That's great. That's cool. I like it. Yeah. I mean that's kind of like how everything's gone for you guys. So I'm sure it'll work out great.
Like we said before, you can't overthink it.
Yeah.
And if it doesn't work, what's the worst that happens?
Right.
Okay, so you failed at something. Move on and try something else. Like, just keep going. Like you only get one shot. You might as well just keep going for it.
Right. So, in closing, what would you say to, somebody that's like sitting at home, like thinking like, I don't know if I could do it like she does, or I, like nobody's ever going to buy anything that I like, like what's your advice to that? Maybe that mom that's sitting at home that has two kids like you and is like, I missed my shot.
You got to do it. You just got to do it. there is nothing ventured, nothing gained. And it's so cliche, but it's so true. And when I say you got to do it, you can't just sign on the dotted line and be like, I'm doing it. You got to go full in. You got to put 100% in. You got to stay up late at night and work. You got to wake up early in the morning and work. Like you may have to bring your kid to work with you. At one point I had a cot in the back of the store, and if my kid was sick at school, I'd go pick him up, and we didn't necessarily go home. I mean, if he was really sick, we would have gone home. If he was just iffy, he might come to the store and lay down for a little while, or color, or whatever it is. Great. You have signed on the dotted line. You have responsibility now. To make it work, you have to make it work.
Right.
You got to put 100% in.
I think a lot of people need to hear that because, like you said, it's not just like, okay, I have a storefront now.
Come visit me.
Come visit me.
No, I mean,
guys working 9 to 5. Come in. Stop in.
It's work every day.
Yeah.
I mean, it is. If you're not busy, then you need to be busy getting busy.
Sure. Very cool. So where can everybody find you online? Where's your locations in both Bay Head, Manasquan?
So we have our flagship store for Water Lily is 1202 3rd Avenue in Spring Lake, and this new store, Seize the Day, is right across the street. We have a store in Manasquan that is at 177 Main Street, and then we have a store down in Bay Head that's only open in the summertime down on Mountain Street, which is great. We have a website, waterlilyshop.com, and we're on Instagram and Facebook, although I'm not on Facebook, so I can't see our posts, but we do post to Facebook.
Okay.
So yeah.
Cool. Well, I want to thank you so much for doing this. This is great. This is our 4th episode of Longshots, and we're super pumped about having Abbey from Water Lily and Seize the Day and Moonlight Designs, right? That's
Moonlight Lily.
Moonlight Lily.
Yes, because I work on it at night.
Oh, okay. Very cool.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah.
I'm so proud of you guys. This is awesome.
Thank you.
I can't wait to see what you do in the future. This is
Oh, cool. Thank you.
Yeah.
All right. Cool.